Welcome back. Attorney Gary Cohen is here. He represents the families of nursing home residents who lived at the facility. We'll get his reaction in a moment. But now, in the final part of our series, we talk to Jim Cobb, a New Orleans attorney hired by the Rehabilitation Center at Hollywood Hills. I start with a simple question. Why is the nursing home speaking out now after nearly 2 months of silence?
Why are we talking now? Because we've had enough.
Jim Cobb is uniquely qualified to represent the nursing home and its owner, Dr. Jack Michel. In 2005, Cobb represented Sal and Mabel Mangano, owners of St. Rita's Nursing Home, where 35 residents drowned after Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans.
I've seen this movie before. I was in this movie.
The Manganos were charged with 35 counts of homicide for failing to evacuate their residents to safety before the storm. They were ultimately found not guilty.
Some of the language that some of the politicians are using here in Florida is almost identical to the language that was used in Louisiana.
How so?
Well, the notion that people are saying that this is an outrage and someone needs to be held accountable and this is terrible and the owners of this nursing home did this to these poor people. We did everything we could to take care of these residents. And my objection is for politicians to throw rocks at caregivers. That's wrong.
Meanwhile, the families of the dead are filing lawsuits, including Pedro Franco, whose mother and father both died.
We want justice. We trusted these people that are supposed to be professionally trained to save people's life.
They're angry. They're angry at the nursing home. They're angry at Dr. Michel.
I understand that, okay? I understand that better than most. Their anger is justified, but the anger is misplaced if it's anger directed at us.
The Hollywood Police Department is investigating the deaths at the nursing home.
We know that we depend on those people in those facilities to care for our most vulnerable elderly population, and it's really sad when something like this goes on.
The majority of patients who expired were on hospice. What happens in these situations, Jim, and we saw it in Louisiana, is the sickest folks go first. They're the weakest.
But do you think the fact that there was no air conditioning contributed to the fact that they died?
I'm not a doctor. And unlike some other folks here in Florida who want to make those charges, I'm going to let the medical professionals take a look at that. I'm going to look at the evidence, and we're going to let somebody decide that. My own view, and we talked about this before today, is that hypothermia, which is what happened when somebody gets overheated, comes on just like that.
You say they did everything they could. The question that is asked to me over and over again on this story is, why not evacuate? Why not get them out of there? Once it was clear there was no power, get them out of that nursing home.
Great question. The data is quite clear.
The data Cobb is referring to are a series of studies performed by researchers, including this woman, University of South Florida professor Catherine Heyer, who examined what happened to 36,000 nursing home residents during Hurricanes Katrina, Rita, Gustav, and Ike.
Natural disasters clearly result in excess deaths and hospitalizations among frail populations.
Heyer testified last month during a congressional hearing in Miami.
And they believed more casualties occurred if they evacuated rather than sheltered and remained in their own building.
A resident of a nursing home is 300% more likely to die if evacuated as opposed to sheltering in place. 300% more likely. So evacuation is fraught with risk.
After the AC lost power on September 10th, Cobb said the nursing home made more than 15 calls to FP&L, 4 calls to Governor Rick Scott's cell phone, and additional pleas for help to the State Department of Emergency Management. But none of them resolved the problem. Wasn't that a signal for you to try to raise a red flag and say, we got to get these people out of here?
Think about the catch-22 situation that you're in if you're the decision maker. On the one hand, you're talking to FP&L says, the cavalry's coming. We're right on the other side of the hill. We're coming. Do we then put at risk the lives of 140 people on the assumption that they're not coming when they've told us that they are?
Should you have had a backup generator to cool for the cooling units?
No. We were in complete compliance with the requirements for the nursing home at the time of this casualty, complete compliance. And as I understand it, there was some legislation that was introduced many years ago, several years ago, to require all nursing homes to have generators, and then the legislation failed, did it not?
But it sounds like you're saying technically we were fine. but what about morally? Could you have gone the extra step and had an emergency generator for the AC unit?
Well, we could have gone, we could have put an emergency generator and air conditioning unit in every single room. It's not a moral question. It's a question of what is required under state law.
Cobb also offered a preview of a possible defense strategy for some of the deaths that occurred after Memorial Regional Hospital evacuated the nursing home.
I was in Louisiana watching this tragedy unfold, and I saw these residents who had been taken out of the Hollywood home and evacuated across the street to Memorial, laying in gurneys and beds in the sun, in the Florida sun. Now, I don't know who did that, but I submit to you that's not a very wise thing to do with patients that are allegedly heated, to stick them in the sun and transition them and triage them into another place. That's why evacuations are disfavored, because when you move them, you lose them.
All right, once again, I want to say that Memorial Regional Hospital says that they believe their actions that day saved lives. Let's bring in Gary Cohen. Gary, I just want to let you respond. What do you think of what you saw in terms of Jim Cobb's comments overall?
All right, it's classic deflection. There are two things that he said that are particularly offensive to me and to the families I represent. One is that, well, some of these people are going to die anyway. So basically what he's saying is, well, they didn't have a long life expectancy, so let them just cook in the nursing home. It didn't really matter. It's absurd and it's disgraceful. Secondly, he said that when they were being moved, that they were being left in the sun to bake out in the sun. That is not true. They were there for a couple of minutes while they were taken out of this hot box, and they were being moved on stretchers and ambulance and gurneys to Memorial Hospital.
I think they were there for more than a few minutes, but your point is valid.
He's trying to deflect the days that they were in this hot box to the minutes, or 10 minutes maybe, that they were outside and being treated by healthcare professionals.
Well, let me ask you this. I realize you don't represent any of the individuals who passed away, but in the research that you're doing and the work you're doing with other attorneys, do we have a cause of death? Do we officially have causes of death for those who passed away? Can we say for certainty that it was because of the heat in the building?
We can say that the proximate cause of the death at those times was the heat.
When you say we can say that, are you saying you're saying it or the medical examiner is saying it?
I'm saying it based on what we're told and based on the evidence of the fact that one patient had a body temperature of 109.9, one had 108.8, another one had 108.3. Those kind of body temperatures don't happen, like Mr. Cobb said, instantaneously. That's nonsense. And the fact that the cause of their death was hyperthermia. Now, whether they would have lived days to weeks to months, we don't know, and I'll wait for the medical examiner to determine that.
I want you to also have an opportunity to address a point raised by some of the employees earlier in the piece, this notion that if family members were so concerned about the care that was being given to their loved ones in the nursing home, they should have gotten their loved ones out of there.
Okay, there's one who came in with a camera that you showed, and I don't know what she did. I don't represent that particular person. I don't know if she did call somebody, but what I do know from her attorney and from others is that they did make comments to the administration, and they were told FP&L is on the way. Don't worry about it. We don't need to move them. They're comfortable for now, and we will take care of it. So they were reassured falsely into believing that this was going to be just a very temporary fix.
You're filing lawsuits, and there's going to be a number of lawsuits filed against the nursing home. Is Florida Power and Light also likely to be sued by you and others?
Very possibly. Very possibly.
Do you think they're partially to blame for this?
Yes, I do. I think that, if this was one call that was made, and there's they have a list that they have to follow of critically important places to get back up and running. According to what we're told by the nursing facility and what the interviews you showed, they were called dozens and dozens of times, including by AHCA, the Agency for Healthcare Administration, and told that this was an emergency, that people were suffering. And the fix, when it happened, only took 25 minutes. So if they had come out any time during those days when they were called and told this was an emergency, they would have fixed this problem. People would not have died.
From a civil litigation standpoint, there's a different burden of proof. Criminal charges are much harder to sort of prove. What is your understanding from the Hollywood Police Department? Do you have any insight into where they are, where FDLE is in the criminal side of this investigation?
No, I know they're still actively investigating. They've asked us to have our clients sign authorizations so they can get their medical records, which we have complied with. And I know they've told us that they're still, heavily investigating this, but they have not released any information.
One of the things that Jim Cobb said is that they're going to be introducing an affidavit from their engineering staff saying that they were taking readings inside the nursing home, that it was never more than 81 or 82 degrees inside. Do you have any information that contradicts that?
Yeah, it's called common sense. We all live here in Florida. You know that in September, especially before and after a hurricane, it gets beastly hot. If you would just close your windows, close your doors, and live in that for, say, 8 hours, you know the temperatures rise into the high 80s.
They did have cooler units. They did have portable ACs, 10 of them inside the building.
They weren't ACs. They were coolers, not ACs, and they weren't. They were being directed to a few of the patients. They did not lower the temperatures in the facility on the second floor, especially, or the first floor. These people were. The temperature in the building, physiologically, scientifically, could not have been 77 to 81 degrees like they're claiming. It's just not possible.
Is this, where do you see this case ending up? We only have about 15 seconds. How do you see this playing out over the next months and weeks, or years even?
I'm hoping, number one, that the nursing home loses its license permanently. Number two, I see civilly them being in a very poor position, and it is my hope that there are some criminal charges.
All right. Gary Cohen, we'll have you back. We'll talk more about this. This is an important story.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll be right back after the break.